Well, friends, no trailer to discuss here in episode 5 of Scarlet Fever. Nintendo, strange as all heck, but there is hope on the horizon. July is a big month for us, a big month for Pokemon, and a big month to talk about Gen 9 Pokedex. We have a litany of Pokemon leaks, designs, evolutions, regionals to cover today, as well as, of course, some Riddler Coup updates and just some speculation on what is next in terms of that July trailer I referenced. So, welcome, Joseph. Thanks for being here. The legendary Poke Professor is back.
You know it.
Repping,
Man.
repping us from all over, trying to uncover the new region. I heard that's what you've been up to, is trying to decipher exactly where this thing is taking place.
Yeah, man. Sometimes as I always say, when there's nothing else to go off of, learn about the region. That's pretty much the takeaway with any new generation, because man, we're kind of learning a lot, actually. So with that being said, I mean,
we're learning like really a lot about strange creatures that I've never even really explored before. We have a lot of very unique images to dissect and go through. Big apologies to those of you listening audio. This is going to be a video intensive segment here as we show you the magic of what Fuecoco may become, as well as Cherubi, Drowsy, Sprigatito, and more. So lock in, hit that like button if you enjoy. We are still pushing this thing to the audio planets, Spotify, iTunes. That should be happening later this week. Sorry for the delay on that. Life is a crazy place. Joseph got transferred to a different gym. I've been all over the place, so it's just, that's what it is. But let's jump straight in. And well, first let's talk on July. Okay, so July, yeah. Why is July big? June was stupid, I think. There was no Nintendo Direct of a general sort. Pokemon didn't appear in the mini partner showcase, but there is like a silver lining here. And why don't you fill us in?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of people, are obviously deep diving trying to figure out something, because when you have a drought of information, that's kind of where the mind goes. And a lot of people, us included, are looking back to previous Pokemon announcements, I would say. And this is following Sword and Shield's pattern pretty much to the T thus far. From the initial trailer to the first trailer, like the first real trailer, the kind of showcase of what the game looks like and is going to somewhat play like. And all of those dates have essentially been lining up, within a week of release. So we already hit our June, announcement, which was June 1st for Scarlet and Violet. And going back to Sword and Shield, we had a June 5th announcement, which essentially showed the region, some Pokemon, the legendaries, I believe, which is, again, completely lines up with everything that we've seen thus far.
Somebody's on a pattern here. Nintendo can't do it, so somebody following a freaking schedule.
Yeah. And as you see, the next one that we had was a July 8th?
Yeah.
Something around that time for Sword and Shield. So I'd imagine, I mean, I'm not going to place any bets on it, but I'd imagine that we are going to hear something in July. And then even again, going back to the previous Sword and Shield kind of press run that they were doing, we had the, the Treehouse gameplay as well that came a little bit later on. So I imagine we're going to probably get a big gameplay follow-up not too long after whatever this next trailer is. And again, if we are going off of the Sword and Shield trailer, this next one should bring new Pokemon. We should learn what the gimmick is possibly, and maybe even some gym leaders. So man, it's hard not to be hyped about July.
It's a big one.
It's hard not to be hyped about this month. And honestly, it's, being bummed that we didn't get too much in June is completely like normal. I think having that first trailer, which in my opinion, or again, second trailer, which in my opinion was kind of bigger than I thought it was even going to be. Because I remember when I saw it was 3 minutes, I was shocked by that. I thought it was going to be a really quick, snippet. Yeah. But even going off of that, it's like, it was a good first showing. So I think the fact that we didn't get anything in June it's making a better argument for the July thing anyway. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't get anything, because at least it proves that, like, hey, maybe we are going to follow Sword and Shield's release window, essentially like the way they rolled it out, to a T. Which, if that's the case, we pretty much know when we're gonna find things out from here on, until release. So,
man, getting like 5 new Pokemon, the gimmick, maybe some gym leaders, some more characters, some like that would be really amazing. July 8th was a Monday, so maybe July 11th if you want to, kind of really line things up. I'd say somewhere, second week of the month feels about right. And Treehouse, they did a Treehouse for Live Alive after the Direct Mini, so just because there's no E3, no General, they still can throw out these very nicely produced Treehouse segments. So that is a total possibility. So stay tuned. We may have to have like a special bonus episode or something, or record right after that. So as soon as that drops, of course, Scarlet Fever is your source. We're sick with it.
Sure are.
Literally. No. I was at one point. But other than that, you think it's a low week, and then Riddler Coup opens his mouth, or opens his Twitter app. This guy, like, you've really been kind of bringing me and I guess the podcast along on the Riddler Coup journey, this crazed man who teases Pokemon in the most intricate ways. But like, this one's a lot. He said that he was going to reveal something about a final evolution. People voted for Fuecoco. Maybe we get an in-game screenshot. Maybe we get a drawing from the Riddler himself. See his penmanship. No, we get a picture of a crocodile with a rooster on its head. And this is where the chicken hole opens, and we see that maybe Pokemon Company can hold to the Zodiac after all.
They found a way, man. They really found a way. Yeah, so I mean the whole situation with Riddler Coup right now is pretty insane stuff. I feel like we're, if anything, we're getting more abstract with the stuff that he's given us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he tweeted that picture, and the community did what it does and somehow managed to find a mythical creature that happens to be a half chicken, or I guess like 30% chicken, 70% crocodile creature. And yeah, it fits in. It like completely makes sense to the narrative of Pokemon thus far. It ties itself into the Zodiac. It made sense for the region. I think people kind of nailed it. I do think we are going to get some type of rooster crocodile thing. The only thing that really throws me off is the ghost aspect. And shout out to Zach for sharing some artwork. I can't really read the app, but it's like RJMizV, who drew a picture that I think kind of incorporates everything that is being talked about. It kind of has the Mohawk aesthetic that the the knights would have that are referenced. We have the skull, which kind of hints towards the ghost aesthetic as well, which we do see in Fuecoco. He does kind of have that like mask that could be kind of the precursor to what a skull would be. Even with the eyes.
There was also someone was talking about sort of that the final evolution has like zombie properties, and so that would kind of be this skulled look. And the creature we're referencing is the cockatrice, which is the rooster dragon of legend. This thing looks equal parts funny and terrifying. Fuecoco, this would allow him to really maintain sort of a crocodile feel, and I guess sort of more of a quadruped, elongated body type, which I think would be pretty neat. And then the Mohawk seems to be the identifying feature here. That's why we're talking rooster. That's why we're talking Chinese Zodiac rooster. And I think that, if Riddler Coup is to be believed, I think this is, like you said, this is it. This is what it's going to be. Some sort of rooster crocodile, basically. There's no other really way around it. And, we did look back, and Spanish war helmets of long ago did have sort of that plume, very rooster-esque, and so that would fit in with the region being Spanish inspired. I think that is going to be your Fuecoco. If this is the case, rooster croc with skull, or some sort of evil ghost element. Are you more Team Fuecoco or are you less?
I'm not gonna lie. I think seeing I guess the traditional art of how this creature supposedly looks with
Right.
its rooster head and almost wyvern like
Yeah.
features. I think imagining it in a Pokemon style with more cartoony elements, but also pushing that kind of zombified feeling. With
Yeah.
if we did have skulls and we did have like again really pushing the ghost part forward. I really think this is an interesting design, especially for a starter. This is not something I would have imagined for a starter, because usually the starters are, I don't want to say like under designed, but they have usually been like really cool initial designs that obviously will always stand the test of time. Like everyone will always prefer starters to most designs, but
Yeah.
they never really go too far with the way they're designed. They're never over designed. You know what I mean? Some Pokemon have that feeling where it's like they really nail what that Pokemon is trying to represent. Starters are more like okay, like for instance, I think if I were to go back to the most designed starters, I would usually say X and Y. And that's like that's like the Delphots and
Yeah.
like when they did like the Greninja, apparently the idea behind it was like RPG, like an RPG party. Delphots was kind of the mage.
Right.
Greninja was the like the rogue, and then you got me on the third.
Some grass thing. I don't know.
That was supposed to be like the paladin. That was kind of the design choice that they went with that, and they did stick to it pretty well. And since then we kind of went back to kind of just basic creatures being the starters. So having something like this that's so conceptually like driven, where it's like, oh, this is a real creature, well, it's a mythical creature in our world that there's like actual history behind it, that's really cool to me. So I do hope that the other starters are given as much love with it as well, because I don't know how you feel about it, Zach, but I feel like Fuecoco is in the spotlight 90% of the time when talking about starters.
Yeah, there was a lot of Sprigatito love early, and then it does seem like it's fully shifted. Fuecoco, I think we've talked about this before, episode after episode, that Gen 9 has a lot of callbacks to Gen 1, and I feel like Fuecoco embodies that really in a really tough way. A lot of the leaks we're gonna go into do sort of evoke Gen 1 feels, but I will say, your Delphox comments really, really sort of flip the script with the Sprigatito leak, because to me, Sprigatito is not, if this final evolution is to be believed, that's not a Gen 1 type design. That is much more of a modern era Pokemon design, which I am not partial to. We'll show this right now. This is a clip, supposedly, of Sprigatito's final form. There's some elements that seem maybe to disprove this. The graphics look insane. The animation isn't necessarily super evolved, but this is again your bipedal creature, and I personally don't like the bipedal Pokemon. I don't like the anthropomorphic Pokemon, and if this is either the evolution or very reminiscent, I think I'm out on Sprigatito.
I do unfortunately think that this is the direction Sprigatito's going to go in.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think this is it, but from what all the Riddler coup talking has been, it's very much of this is going to be a bipedal Pokemon. It's going to be very feminine in its design, which is also something that we don't often see, like gender specific designs for starters. I mean, more recently we have like Litten becoming Incineroar, very more masculine design,
versus
obviously
Delphox,
versus Delphots, exactly, or even Primarina from Alola as well. Very, so it's like, on one hand, I do see this being something that could possibly be the final Evo, but it does look a little bit more gender neutral. And it also really doesn't flag any okay, if we're taking the Fuecoco leak, and we're saying that that's definitely it. It is going to be this rooster dragon thing.
Yeah.
That has very, very heavy references to Spain and its history and its mythological creatures. And then you have this, which just seems like
a Digimon.
It seems like a Digimon. It's exactly what. That's exactly it. It seems like a Digimon,
and it's not very cat-like. I mean, to me,
at all. It becomes more like fox-like,
yeah.
if anything, which could still work. I'm getting really Robin Hood vibes. You know?
And you look at the background, the lighting here. Like, maybe this is our first leak of a Switch Pro, because I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think this is possible. So this is probably not real, but it does make you wonder. You know, I guess it gives you more of just a conceptualized visual of like, okay, if Sprigatito is going to be bipedal, if it is going to be more of a modernized design, this is something that it looks like. And I think like this game having maybe a bit of both, maybe some, hey, it's future past, so some very more modern era Pokemon designs and some, more past Pokemon designs would be pretty darn nifty. Let's look at my favorite one, which is the Drowsy. This is how you nail Gen 1 in 2022. This is just a sexy design of drooly poison Drowsy. Man, oh man, I wish this was real.
This is seriously, and I'm so dead serious. Like, this is why I feel like we're even talking about this. This is such a strong thematic design through and through. I mean, the Drowsy being a poison psychic or even poison ghost they can do, I could see that working. That already from like a typing standpoint, fire, super dope idea. And then you look at the design and everything comes together. They give it a little kind of like runny nose because clearly it has like snot or drool or some type of poisonous liquid dripping from it. That looks like a ton when it's just kind of there, which is cute. But the fact that they even came up with a way to replace the pendant with being the thing that kind of droops down.
Good.
I mean, this is fantastic. And like you said before, it kind of really, not only is it a Gen 1 Pokemon, but it evokes the Gen 1 design practice of like, this thing could be real. Look at how it's created. Like, everything about it seems like if it was to exist, you automatically from the get-go get what its whole gimmick is, what it is. And that's
and it's simplistic. Awesome. It's got, minimal artistic flourish on it, which I think is just really critical to making the Pokemon feel, for me, more endearing. I feel like some modern Pokemon are kind of like, hey, let's rub a bunch of sticky glue on this Pokemon and throw body parts and metal at it and just see what sticks. And oh my god, it's got a million things flying out of it. And look, we have some of those. We both the legendaries are motorcycle dragons, so that's giving sort of that like really like, wow, this is complicated. But I do love being, a 32-year-old, I do love the Gen 1 look when you're like, wow, that's a Jigglypuff, and that's a a Charmander, and Charmander is just an orange little oval with a little fire tail. I'm like, that's that works. And I think Lechonk is like that. I think what's the little Pikachu guy? The
Pawnee?
Yeah, I think he is
Pawnee is like that for sure.
I think he's like that. But what's cool is that they still look unique. And like I think maybe that was sort of the hard part, is like, okay, how after 8 generations do you make something that does look different but still simple? And maybe that was sort of the design philosophy of the last couple of games, is like, well, we got to go complicated. And I love that here it seems like, hey, let's find a way to return to form. And some of these supposed regional variants, I think, evoke that as well. Let's talk about grapes first. I like grapes. You like green grapes or red grapes?
I'm more of a green grape guy, but
they got that. They got more of that tang, that little bit of sour bite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They kind of exactly. And it's just really refreshing. I think the design is really good. I think it's cute. Again, if we're going off of like, just to make this point like now before we dive super deep, we're not saying that these are real leaks. Like, we're not, again, like, I just need to go into that, not tackling them as if they are actually 100% real, or even if they're 50% real. I mean, we know like, I'm almost positive that Drowsy's not. I wish it was, but so again, we're just going strictly off of like what we think and what are the chances. This is a great regional variant for a Pokemon that I think could use some more kind of, I don't want to say designs, but it's cool to see something like Cherubi, which you see the first time you see, and you're like, that's a cool Pokemon. I'm probably gonna never use it outside of the context of this game.
Yeah.
And see it kind of, I mean, that's what makes regional variants so great, right? Is it gives a breath of fresh air into a Pokemon that is well beyond its years. I mean, you look at what like Sword and Shield did with Zigzagoon. It made it a complete different Pokemon with a new evolution, and now it's like it's a fan favorite again. So it's like, it's really cool. So I would love to see something like that with like, if we saw like a Cherim that's, grape based. I don't know how you would do that. I think I really don't. I don't know. I'm not a Pokemon designer, but I do think that this is a cute little regional variant.
Could tie in, grapes and wine. I don't know. I feel like that does sort of give you more of that like Spanish vibe. I think
true. That's actually a good point. Yeah,
I think that could work out there. I do love the look of this. What's the kind of as more of the historical obsessive Pokemon fan, what's the record on, have there ever been leaks that are real like this? Have there ever been Pokemon leaked out like these like fake or real in-game shots? Like is that even a thing?
Screenshots, not really. Not often. We get really talented people who they don't even 3D render it. It's actually just like paintings. Just the thing with the old style of Pokemon, and this is something I'm glad that we kind of brought up because it ties into this one, and then a Tauros leak that we'll also kind of go into a little bit. But with Sword and Shield and those kind of graphics, same thing with Arceus. The graphics were very simple when it comes to the actual models of the Pokemon. They've essentially been using the same models for, since X and Y. They got those 3D models. They were smart. They made them, basically at the highest resolution they could. That way they can just plop it into any game and it works. And that was a fantastic design philosophy because you can always just add to your previous, look. However, with Scarlet and Violet, like, people don't understand that we are getting brand new textures. Like, it's not, for better or for worse. I think I'm someone who did love the old kind of like Pokemon style. Graphically, the way they looked very like, I don't know, very charming, very cute. They didn't look real by any means, but it, they had that Pokemon feel. It was very, for most Pokemon at least, it was very good seeing 2D to 3D. It looked as if they just jumped off the page, right? Not for everybody, but for a lot of them. Now, when we're looking at the new game, though, we see little fur textures. We see that they don't do, like old Pokemon games, they used to do 2D mouths on 3D, Pokemon, right?
Right.
And if you're looking at this Cherim here, you could actually see the second grape that has its mouth open. It's just a PNG of a mouth on it. It's basically drawn directly on it. There's no indentation. But if you look at like Sprigatito, it's like an actual mouth. So this is a brand new thing that they're doing. Same thing. You look at this Tauros now that is supposedly a regional variant leak, which we have heard could be the case. But it looks very Sword and Shield. The background is definitely Scarlet Violet. Like, there's no way around it. It looks very much like what we've seen in the game. Nothing that we've seen exactly. Nobody's been able to really line it up. But visually, it gives those same kind of flags. But then you look at the Tauros, it looks like a 3DS model scaled up. It doesn't have texture on the fur. The horn does not look metallic. So it's like those things kind of make it hard for me to get too excited because I can tell that they're not using like the same shaders. They're not using the same textures.
Yeah, it does have like a last game before type feel.
Like a Sword and Shield or Legends kind of feel where it's like they do look real. And I definitely don't want to, go and say that this is 100% fake. These are awesome designs. Very cool regional variants. I think people would love if they were in the game. Right. But stylistically, it's just not matching what we've seen so far. So for me, it's like, it's kind of tough. But yeah, that is to say, again, I think when a new Pokemon game is announced, anybody who has any 3D modeling or 3D painting skills will always immediately jump at the chance to make fake screenshots because it's just it's fun. And then seeing how many people you could trick is awesome. So
Yeah, and like you kind of got into, like some of these could be more of like a visual representation of what we'll get, because it does seem like a Tauros variant is going to be in the game. It would be almost silly not to with the region, with the theme. It just seems like it will, and we've heard some leaks and riddles about that. Similar with this Bonsly, who again looks very cool, but if you look at the eyes, they do look very much plopped on there, as opposed to the depth that we're seeing out of Lechonk and Quaxly's eyes and Sprigatito's eyes, which are giving more of like a full-on 3D textured dynamic. But Sudowoodo has been heavily rumored as getting a regional variant, and so this would fit, and there could be, I mean, to me he kind of looks like he's ready for, like, he's like the best s'mores helper ever, but I understand that he's rock based, and that's pretty cool.
I would love the idea of a s'mores version. You see, what's really interesting about Sudowoodo and Bonsly, in particular though, is the fact that they are rocked. They always have been.
Yeah.
So seeing a literal rock variant is interesting, because it's like, so is this one grass? Because the whole point of Sudowoodo is that it looks like a tree as kind of a defense mechanism. Because the idea is that you see that it's a tree, you're going to use fire on it because that's super effective. But Psych, it's rock. Water's actually super effective against. So the whole point of Sudowoodo is that kind of that gimmick. So it would be kind of cool to see like a rock-looking Sudowoodo that's actually grass. I think that could be cute. Again, like, apparently this leak was before a lot of the other ones. So this I highly doubt even is slightly relevant. I do know that the Sudowoodo talk is kind of ramping up, so there may be a variant for that. But yeah, I think you mentioned the eyes. That was a great call. Same thing with the mouth, like very much drawn on. But then also, like, there's just a lot of inconsistencies. Like there's the way the shading is, it's just a lot of it doesn't seem like we're taking that directly from the game. It does look like it was a 3D model plopped onto a quickly either grabbed background from another game, or if they made it themselves. I could see it being in a game, and again, I would be excited, but man, these guys are good. They're good at what they do, and going off that is the leak that I honestly, you got me, like, I don't even know, is the Oddish and Gloom.
Yeah, I was gonna say
regional variants.
The Gloom variant is the most like 3D built up model of all of these. Like, you can see the texture on the mouth, the texture on the body. These are
even
really,
the eyes.
really cool.
They do seem slightly indented in.
Yeah,
like it like, obviously they're just lines, but if you look closely, like, there are kind of highlighted parts, kind of insinuating depth, which is like crazy. The Oddish is a little less impressive, obviously, because it's an Oddish. It's hard to
hey now
to kind of not to hate on the little man. He's very cute. But like even there, we see the eyes are definitely 2D. They do have kind of a 3D look, but like you can't escape the fact that one's probably and to that extent, it would make sense that this one is also probably fake,
right?
The Gloom, but wow, if it's not like a solid design choice, I think it fits the region well. It would be awesome to have kind of a regional variant of a Gen 1 Pokemon that literally no one wants to use anymore.
I love the pineapple feel like that. They really,
it's very cute. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Be very
I just don't know where it fits with Smoliv.
Okay.
Like, does having a regional Oddish take away from this generation's Oddish?
Yeah. A little bit of a
so
slap
I
in the
don't
face,
know.
Huh?
Exactly. It seems like you're setting up Smoliv to fail, where it's like, oh, people are gonna want to try the new Oddish because I'm sure it's gonna have a new typing. If this is real, it would have a new typing. It would be more interesting. And then from the kind of leaks that I've heard, it'll kind of only evolve into Blossom, which is a Pokemon that people really, really like. No Vileplume though, which is a little weird. I would imagine they should have done both kind of evolutionary stages, but that's Game Freak.
So, something I'd love, since we're talking about Smoliv here, Smoliv, with the oil is kind of like the big thing about it's, it's got oil in its body. It shoots out oil.
Hmm.
I would love like a food theme. We're talking about grapes and pineapples. I'd love if a lot of Pokemon had like this like sort of like Spanish food, theme to it, wine and olive. And,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean that would be it would be cool, but also like yeah, for a region that's taking place in Spain, you'd have to have
Yeah.
something talking about the food, something referencing it. Um and I mean, now that you mention it, we do kind of have this other leak that uh we put it's basically a Fuecoco fighting this never before seen kind of like crab creature.
Yes.
And now that you mention it, it does kind of look like pots and pans, right?
Yeah.
It kind
Pot
of looks
crab.
like just like yeah, it kind of looks like two crab arms coming out of like some pots and pans. I this one's interesting. We kind of discussed it.
Weird
Beforehand,
UI.
but, like, weird, very weird UI, but cool UI. I like it. I like the idea, but we've kind of already seen what that looks like.
Yeah.
So that's very tough to bounce back from. Also just the general look of it, it almost looks like Shin Megami Tensei 5. I don't know if you played that at all, Zach, but it's very reminiscent of like it looks very similar. You have like the sandstorm kind of happening.
Well, and the environments are
obviously
just
this was
very dynamic. Like there's like
yeah.
you can see there's a structure that's kind of like half knocked over in the sand at the top left corner, and there's a ton of different undulation and just I don't know. I mean, I'm down for a Pokemon that has this much variety and this much environmental detail, but you kind of look at what Legends Arceus did. You kind of look at what the screenshots and the video we have for Scarlet Violet, and it just isn't that in depth. It's not that complicated. Yeah. It's a lot more basic textures. It's a lot more, very vertical angles, and this just has a very rounded, beautiful, wish it looked like this feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just it is interesting because like even though it gets some things wrong like the UI, I feel like that Fuecoco is really well done.
Yeah.
Like really, really well done. I almost I don't know. I almost, now that I'm thinking about it, I hope that creature that it's fighting isn't a Shin Megami Tensei creature, because it kind of looks like it could be.
With the eyes, yeah.
With the eyes, it just looks very demonic feeling. So now I hope I didn't just like look really dumb mentioning Shin Megami Tensei and not knowing what that thing is. But regardless, I think, like you said, the background is like crazy interesting. It would be really cool to have like you're battling, and like you said, like in the back there's those towers, like just being able to see structures when you're doing that, because again it gives that wondrous feeling where you're like, after this battle I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna see what's over there, and that's something that I feel like no Pokemon game has ever really had, because you're gonna be strung along to the next route, the next town, the next, even with Sword and Shield, like the wild area, it was never really a place to explore. It was more so just a literal empty area where they threw Pokemon in. And same things with Legends Arceus, where it's like, again, love the game to death, but let's be honest, there was really not much in the ways of like finding hidden areas and learning lore about the story. Like they did some of that, but not to the extent that I think they should. Definitely not to the extent that its peers are doing. Like other open world RPGs are very good at storytelling, through kind of environments and previous lore. So it's like, I would love the Pokemon games to kind of follow in that footsteps, especially because we're definitely not getting this linear story that Pokemon has had. There's no way to do it. Like, I think we're pretty much settled on the idea that we're not getting a straightforward story. This is going to be something that is going to be go at your own pace. So it would be really cool to have stuff like that. But man, a lot of these leaks are just looking almost too good, which is
Too
the problem,
good.
right?
They made him too good. Yeah, because if you look at the battle footage we have in the second trailer, which is Lechonk versus Quaxley, it's one, the UI is very different, and two, it's very much your typical like, well, there's a rock in the background, there's some grass in the background. It's very zoomed in. I do love that idea of, hey, this is a big open world, so tease the rest of the environment behind you, and I think that's something that maybe the environment wasn't that exciting in Legends Arceus, but the fact that you could free move during the battles, like, did allow for more of that feel, more of a, wow, this is a whole big world, and I'm kind of this is just one thing that's taking place, as opposed to, I'm very locked in. This is the, the camera angle. This is the battle. But yeah, I think, man, of all these, like, the best one is probably, or the most likely legit one is probably the Cockatrice for Fuecoco, just because, one, that's not an actual render in the game or anything. There's no actual whatever, and it's Riddler Coup, and it does seem to fit with everything we've heard. So if you're going to get excited about any of these, it's probably that. Do you have a personal favorite though? Like, if you could will one of these into the game?
I mean, I think, and I think you'd agree with me, I think that Hypno is just...
Yeah. The Drowsy, yeah.
The Drowsy, not Hypno. That Drowsy is... Which even then, that makes me think, like, what would a Hypno look like?
Yeah.
What would the evolution look like? Yeah, I just think the Drowsy... Because, again, it's very similar to the Pokemon that we've seen so far as well, where it's just... It just feels like a creature that would be living in this world. It doesn't have any of those flourishes that kind of over-design it. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's a cool idea. I like him a lot.
For me, it's either him or Grapely up here, the little little grape
very
guy.
cute. That one, I don't know, that one I'm really, because like, what if the previous Pokemon that are being obviously brought into this game, what if they do follow the old graphic, especially, I mean, I guess with Cherubi, it's a little different just because it literally is just cherries, or in this case, grapes.
Yeah.
So there really isn't a lot of texture there. But like the mouth thing, I'm mainly discussing is like, what if would they do that though? I feel
multiple
like
art styles.
Right, that would kind of be too much.
That's what you get. Yeah, if you get Scarlet, you get the old art look, and if you get Violet, you get the new art look.
I mean, hey, that would be terrible marketing wise, but really cool thematically, especially if we're doing past and future. That would be pretty sick. But I don't think anybody wants a less graphically intensive game on purpose.
Let's go to some actual Pokemon here, because it does, I think, inform going forward. And I think it is interesting. And I do think the set of 8 that we have is a really one of the strongest early sets that we've seen in these gens. We obviously have touched many times on Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxley. I'm still very eager to see their evolutions. For me, like, to me, I'm like down to Fuecoco or Quaxley. I don't think I can pick Sprigatito anymore, which I hope that doesn't upset too many people. But yeah, their evolutions are going to decide it for me.
Yeah.
I feel like Quaxley could sort of be potentially like the dark horse here. He could come in kind of under the radar.
I'm honestly with you on that. I do think Quaxley not only is the least discussed by far, but with its supposed typing being water fighting, which isn't a unique typing, like we have had it in the past, it's still something that's like, I can see it being really, really cool design-wise. And actually, there is, if I were to reference one thing that I feel like I haven't seen anybody reference, but for the people who at least know what I'm about to throw out, like, I think that this could be something cool. So I don't know if you've ever heard of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's like an anime. Yes. Very, very, very wacky, very famous. I'm not super into it, but I know a lot of it. Anyway, there's a character in, like, I believe it's the 4th season, named Josuke. This is very important because he has a pompadour, right? Very, very cool looking hair. And his whole like gimmick is that he's a really cool, down to earth guy. You mess with his hair, you're getting beat down. That's the whole point of his character, right? Quaxley has literally the same hair, essentially, like the pompadour. You see it like get out of the water, kind of flip its hair.
Right.
And I believe in its Pokédex entry, or at least the thing that we're told about it, I'm pretty sure they reference that it cares a lot about its hair. Something.
Yeah, the coif on
the
its
sort.
head is slicked back using a rich, moist cream, and it becomes unkempt when dry.
Yeah, so I feel like it's really gonna be pushing the like don't touch my hair type
Yeah, it
thing,
says
which
it
is
especially dislikes getting its head dirty. Yeah.
perfect. So it's a very like Japanese anime thing.
Yeah.
Where there will always be a character with a pompadour who, if you touch it, like they're going to beat the life out of you. So it being a fighting water type is very funny because I almost feel that they're going to go that route. And Quaxley being like a sailor made sense because it doesn't need Spanish roots. It's a sailor.
Mm-hmm.
It could be from a foreign land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of even fits that they can do a Japanese styled
design,
at least reference design,
Yeah.
because it's like it's already coming in on a boat. The whole idea of Spain is like, we had a lot of people going there.
Yeah.
So I can very much see a through line of that. But then also there's like, there are a lot of Spanish sailors, so they could just go that route. There's so much that they can do. It's just the hair thing that really grabbed me in particular.
Yeah.
They spoke on it so much where I was like, this is a little too.
I hope he doesn't become like too humanoid. I'm fine with the sailor thing, but I just don't want this to be like, oh, now he's a sailor man. That just
he's just a man with a beak.
Golly goodness, that would be beyond strange. But I do love, the riff on Psyduck was one kind of duck and Quaxley is a different kind of duck. It's very much giving off Gen 1 feels and vibes, which I appreciate. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Palmy, because I think Palmy, if Palmy is indicative of the rest of the gen, I think we're in great shape.
Mm-hmm.
Palmy kind of being maybe the Gen 9 Pikachu. Really, really like the electric orange.
Yeah.
Really like the possibilities of where it could go. Really concerned that its organs are on its paws. That seems really, really dangerous design for just, in terms of,
Yeah. How'd this thing make it that long?
Yeah. Well, what am I going to say? Like, I guess evolution, natural selection. I feel like someone would have just, it stubs its toe and it's probably in severe pain.
Yeah. This thing wouldn't make it past the first, iteration of itself.
Right.
I personally, I don't know if anybody shares this with me. I think it's my favorite design so far.
Okay.
I love it. I think it's super cute. I want it on my team. I don't think it's going to evolve though. That's my issue.
I think it's 1 feet tall and that's it.
I think that's it. Because if you look at the past of Pikachu clones, Pikachu's really the only one that got an evolution. Okay. For the most part. Because you have Pachirisu, never got one. Plusle and Minun never got one.
What about Meryl?
See, Meryl's interesting because Meryl was the first ever kind of Pikachu or potential Pikachu clone. And I mean, even in the original ones, they always had Pika Blue was the whole thing. Right. But I don't really count. I think it's in the same design, kind of category. Where it's clearly it's a mouse, it's cute, major mascot potential. But the only thing that keeps me from seeing it as a Pikachu is just it doesn't have the electric sacs on its face.
Okay.
And it's not an electric type. So that's really the only thing. Because then you even have something like Mimikyu, which a lot of people are like, oh, Mimikyu was that generation's Pikachu.
Yeah.
But really it wasn't. It was Togedemaru, which nobody even remembers. That was the rock electric type. He was a little hedgehog, but so that was the Pikachu. So there are instances where we do see kind of the next Pikachu. Again, I think that goes into kind of two categories. We have the actual electric mice, and then we have people thinking that they could be the mascot. And that's what we kind of see with Meryl and Mimikyu, I feel like.
Gotcha. So no chance this evolves into the very, very, very rare fire electric type.
Oh man, I wish. I'll hold out hope. it's just, again, like even last generation with Morpeko, which ended up being my favorite Pokemon from the generation. That was the Pikachu of that gen.
Okay.
But he had a cool ability that made it okay that like I didn't care that he didn't have an evolution, and that was every turn it changed types. It went from electric to a dark,
right?
And that was really cool because it allowed you to kind of have switch ups on your opponent. That was awesome. But I really do think we're just getting a standard electric type.
Okay.
If it does have an evolution, I'm even more sold because this thing is so cute. I love the little tuft of hair. It's my favorite.
Yeah, a lot of hair going on here. We got Quaxley with the hair. You got Palmy with the hair.
They're rubbing it in on me for sure.
Oh man,
yeah.
They got you
out here. It's all right. Yeah, they got me. The mohawk that Fuecoco's gonna have.
Jeez, yes. Wow. This man, hair and food. And speaking of food, Lechonk is hungry. He's got that gluttony ability, and we know this guy's gonna evolve. There's no chance that he doesn't. I don't know what more there is to say about Lechonk. He's kind of a fan favorite. He's kind of brilliant. He's kind of hefty, and just we hope that he evolves into something beautiful.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, Lechonk. There's really not much more to be said about it.
How are you gonna like Palmy more than Lechonk though?
I think it's more of just me being different. Me just wanting to be different.
You're special.
Lechonk is I objectively the best, right? Objectively.
Okay.
I'm just going subjectively. I gotta have something different. I want to mix it up a bit. But other than that, no, Lechonk is undefeated. Literally best Pokemon ever.
Who is objectively the best between Corydon and Miraidon?
That's tough. What I want from you, what do you think?
My inclination is that Miraidon is very much a modern era Pokemon. He's freaking a robot car transformer. And yes, Corydon is still a motorcycle, but he retains like, I'm a creature. I could actually exist. This is something that, it's just a different animal type. And I think that's what, I don't know. Like for me, like I want Pokemon to be the animal replacement in the world. And I don't know, like, wasn't there some lore discussion in I don't remember if it was around Detective Pikachu, the movie, or something about like that there's also animals in the world? Was this a...
Oh yeah, on many occasions they've referenced like actual animals. Like even so in the anime they've showed like real fish. Like just regular fish. That's
so weird.
Kind of the most used thing. Then there's the argument, like, what food do they eat in the Pokemon universe? Like, do they cook up Tauros or do they have, like, actual, like, cows?
Beef,
So So I do think there's a lot of, like, interesting conversations to be had there. Or we could just assume everyone is a vegan and there are only Pokemon. That could very much be a real thing as well.
But that's why I like the ones that look like, wow, this is just an animal replacement instead of, like, oh, this is a keychain that somehow got converted into a battling psycho. Like I just prefer that a lot,
Yeah, I think there's a place for some of those, but I do think in the later generations we've gone more into the like strange designs, and I'm kind of with you where like I think the strongest designs are the ones that not only have ties to real animals but like riff off it. Like literally just go, okay, I mean, like, let's talk about Lechonk. Lechonk is literally just a pig.
Yes.
There's actually no, like, design flourish to separate it from an actual pig. You cannot tell me that this is anything different from anything we have in our world. It has a little eye crust that looks like it's crying, and it's... but, like, outside of that, like, this is a pig.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so perfect? And I think that just goes to show that, like, we haven't reached the end of like what just taking a animal and designing it better. Like we haven't reached that like limit yet, because we have other paid Pokemon as well. But like we had Spoink, which was really
Spoink,
but then Grumpig, the evolved form, does actually look like it could be an evolution for Lechonk, which is cool. But like that's kind of like nobody's saying we have too many pig Pokemon, so I can see them going back, or even with Sprigatito, like we just had Litten 2 generations ago, so it's like you can reuse animals and kind of riff off them without feeling the need to make a keychain a Pokemon or make a literal sword a Pokemon, you know, like stuff like that, or a teapot, you know. We've had
I think also
interesting
these
things.
legendaries are good because I think they provide, and you know, maybe this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they provide a really nice distinct choice. I think like, yes, they are
Yeah.
very similar like outline wise, but stylistically you have a really defined pick here, maybe more so
Yeah.
than most generations, and I appreciate that. You get the dragon motorcycle, but then you can go with a much more futuristic modern Pokemon aesthetic and much more of a you know, past and, you know, classic Pokemon aesthetic. And I think
Hmm.
that, to me, that's so much like, to me the worst choice was Sword and Shield because they were so darn similar. It's like, you know, you're
Yeah.
just picking one
Literally the
that's
same
holding a
Pokemon,
sword or one
essentially.
that has a freaking shield on his chest. That's what you got. And
Yeah.
oftentimes the legendaries, you know, they have their differences, but they sort of look like they're from the same era.
Yeah.
And I guess with this game having the different eras, it really feels nice that,
Hmm.
you know, Miraidon could be a regional form of Koraidon from a past gen. Like, that is awesome to me. And I think
Hmm.
that is what makes both of these totally valid and totally cool, is that they are so related, but also provide a very distinct choice.
No, I completely agree with you. I like literally, and I'm, you know, while you're speaking, I'm trying to think back to other generations to really think like, okay, like what, you know, how different really were they? And we go back to the first real bots legendaries being like Lugia and Ho-Oh,
Mm-hmm.
both birds, you know, obviously different designs, but not as much as now, you know, 100% not, especially coming off of Gen 1 where we had Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, which were
Mm-hmm.
already legendary birds. So that was a weird choice. You know, Gen 3 we had Groudon and Kyogre and
Mm-hmm.
Rayquaza. So it's like they obviously again were designed differently, but they had the same designs on them. Like they both had the, well, all three of them had like kind of those like circular indentations where the light comes out. Like, you know, like as far as design goes, they were very uniform, and it goes all the way to yeah, Sword and Shield were really, like you said, the two were essentially indistinguishable. And the weird thing about them too is that they needed to hold an item to even reach their like box forms, like the way they looked on the
Mm.
box. Because when you first get them, they're just like these like dog things. You know, they're like
Yeah.
weaker versions. So it's like even that was a very weird choice to do. So it is cool to kind of go back to these you know, creatures that do look different, and then not only that, but represent something polar opposite, which usually is the case for the legendaries, but this time it's a visual difference. Like obviously with like Xerneas and Evoltol from like X and Y, that's life and death. And like, yeah, they look different, but they're in the same design camp of like
Yeah.
they you know, if you put them next to each other, they look related. These two obviously are both dragon motorcycles, but genuinely you're getting the exact opposite of the one you pick. Like whichever one you pick, there is a complete design alternate for you waiting.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool because you're really making a stance on what you prefer. Do you prefer the past or do you prefer the future? And I think that's really what we're seeing through and through, is they really want to make the games feel different. At least make you feel like you're having to choose. So I think they're some of the best bots legendaries that we have in a while. And even initially I wasn't super blown away. I was like, they're very cool, but like I had to really sit with it. But where I'm at now, I think we're in for like a fantastic treat. Even the ideas kind of that we came up with, story wise, of like how it could potentially have stemmed from the same kind of like original Pokemon, and
Right.
depending on how we brought them back, I just think there's so much room for lore and fun designs that like, yeah, it's hard not to think that these are some of the best Pokemon that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I hope that that does reverberate around the rest of the Pokedex, and I know that would be a huge
Mhm.
undertaking, but I do want a futuristic Lechonk evolution. Like, I do want to be able to see,
Yeah,
like, what's the Miraidon form of Lechonk, what's the Koraidon form of Lechonk, and, you know, I think
yeah,
that would be one of the coolest things gimmick-wise in a long time, maybe even the coolest gimmick. I mean, imagine if your final Fuecoco form could, you know, go past and go future, that there, you know, are two states that it can exist in.
yeah.
that we will probably find out this month. We'll probably find out if that is the gimmick. I'm sure that they will want to put that front and center. But it would be so nifty to have more Pokemon that borrow from the legendary sort of dichotomy here of like, okay, past and future, and what does, obviously like more Pokemon is always great, but I love the idea of sort of riffing on and iterating on the ones that are here. I mean, that's why regional variants are so cool and interesting, right? And that's why sort of, the spoke path evolutions are very interesting. So doing that as the main focus of like, okay, this is, Smolive's looking cool, but man, old timey Smolive, that was a real banger right there. So like that would be really, really fun to get to see.
Yeah.
In the past, Quaxley cares so much about his hair, but in the future, he's bald. Like that's just hey, look, Joseph.
See, and then I would choose him.
Yeah, you choose him. Your future Joseph. There's their past Joseph is probably having just luscious locks, probably somewhere out there.
Exactly. So that's I think that's such a great like. So let me give you this then. Would you, if that was definitely the route they went? Mm-hmm. Would you be okay if they said, okay, listen, every Pokemon will have this slight redesign for past and future, depending on, which way you go, how you use the gimmick, whatever. But there's only 200 Pokemon in the game.
Yeah, that's a really small number, but like
legit, like, because think about it. Technically, right? If there's only 200, you're technically looking at what? Because if we're doing, are we saying that you could always choose past or future, or depending on the game?
So that'd be like 600. Yeah,
technically there's 600, right? Like if we're
that would be fantastic. And even in our little Pikachu discussion, you mentioned multiple times how this guy kind of got forgotten. This guy kind of forgotten. I think the bigger Pokedexes are interesting, but at some level, it's going to boil down to the fan favorites. It's going to boil down to sort of the ones that are the premier choices for battling, and then the premier choices for design. If they nail the design on fewer, but then have different iterations, like I do think that would be fine. And we've heard rumblings that this has a big Pokedex. I mean, big Pokedex doesn't have to mean all different entries. Big Pokedex could mean, it could mean. I would love that, just because it also allows for more individuality. So your Lechonk could be centered more around the past form, and your team is building based on that. And I think that's why whatever the job switching type mechanic that's been hinted at is going to shake things up, because it's going to provide an opportunity. So like, even if we're using Smolive's final form, maybe we're using it in a different way. And that to me is pretty brilliant. So I don't know. I'm very eager and anxious to see what the heck happens in July.
Man, me too. And just the thought that we'll know the gimmick. It's funny too, because I think it's going to be such a big moment for not only everyone, but especially for like the podcast itself. Because I think really all we're waiting for is confirmation on exactly what the next trailer would be. What are the new Pokemon designs? Are we sticking with these kind of Gen 1 inspired designs? Gym leaders, how are they working? And then what is that gimmick? Like, what, those are really everything. Like, I feel like once we have that, we have everything. We can really start to actually visualize the game, see how it works. Because I imagine if we get introduced to the gyms, they'll probably explain how the system works. At least a little, like, touch point on it. Like, can we go to any gym in any order? Or is it kind of a Metroidvania where I need to go to the fire gym to get a fire suit to cross over a fire canyon where the water gym is across? Like, I would love that. So I'm excited. I think this is going to be probably the biggest trailer in Pokemon history, genuinely. Because I
heard it here first.
I can't think of a single time where someone like wanting a trailer to see what's next is obviously that's what trailers are for, but wanting a trailer to even know what the game is so much bigger. And this is our third trailer in, so it's like we've been waiting. I'm just excited.
I think the most likely scenario is that the trailer does emphasize the mechanics and the structure, and then the treehouse, if that's to be, emphasizes the multiplayer. But I could also see them going kind of in reverse order. I could see the trailer focusing on how this is the most precious multiplayer game you can ever play. Like, that could also be a thing. But either way, we should have more concrete info in the next few weeks. We also have our big giveaway that I'm talking about. I'm staring at the prizes right here. They're fantastic. Joseph still hasn't seen them. And
Still don't know
goodness gracious, we're going to do our darnest to get this up on other services. So hopefully we can have that giveaway. Hopefully we're on other services. And hopefully we have some new Pokemon trailers to talk about soon. In the meantime, thanks so much. Let us know what Pokemon is your favorite of the current ones. Are you a Team Palmy like Joseph, or are you Team Lechonk like me? Quaxley, is he growing on you? Let us know in the comments down below. Have a fantastic, safe rest of your week. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. And until next time, from myself and Joseph, this is Scarlet Fever. SwitchForce out.
Boom.
Beautiful.
Look at that. It hit the hour too. Look at that.